In this lesson, we will be learning how to multiply three-digit numbers using an algorithm. What is an algorithm? An algorithm is a list of steps or a set of instructions. When multiplying multi-digit numbers, we follow a list of steps or an algorithm. We're going to be multiplying 78 by 51. So let's look at our first step. Our first step tells us to line the problem up vertically. So that means we're going to put the 78 on top and the 51 directly underneath it. Step number 2 tells us to multiply the top number by the ones place in the bottom number. So we're going to be multiplying the top number by the ones place. So I have a 1 here. I'm going to multiply 1 times 8, and that's going to give me 8. Then I'm going to multiply 1 times 7, and that will give me 7. And now I can move on to the next step. The third step tells us to cross off any carried numbers. Because I didn't have to carry any numbers up here, I don't have to cross anything off. The fourth step tells me to drop 1 0. Now, the reason that we do this, I'm going to go ahead and put my 0 here, but the reason why we do this is just as important as actually doing it. When we drop a 0, we're actually multiplying now by the tens place. So instead of multiplying by 5, we are actually multiplying by 50. And we don't want to have to worry about that extra 0. So what we do is we put the 0 here in the partial product, and that way we can just pretend that we're multiplying by 5. So now that I have the 0, I can now multiply 5 times 8, and I'm going to get 40, so I'm going to put the 0 here and carry the 4. Now I can multiply 5 times 7, which is going to give me 35, plus 4, which is going to give me 39. And now I can move on to my final step, and my final step tells me to add the partial products. Now if we know that the answer to a multiplication problem is a product, these are actually just smaller multiplication problems. This one is the answer to 1 times 78, and this one is the answer to 50 times 78. So once we are ready, we add the partial products, and our final answer is going to be 3,978. Now's a good time, if any, to identify our vocabulary. So the two numbers in a multiplication problem that are multiplied by each other, in this case it's 78 and 51, they are called factors. And the two numbers that we add together, we already touched on it down here, to get to our product are called partial products. And finally, the answer to our multiplication problem is called the product. Now we can't forget to fill in our two bubbles down here. So the first one asks us, why drop a 0? And the answer to that is because now we are multiplying by 50 instead of 5. A couple things to remember. Multiplying numbers using an algorithm. The first thing is, if multiplying a 3-digit number by a 2-digit number, always put the 3-digit number on top. You'll still get the same answer if you don't, but it's just going to make it a lot easier on yourself. Okay, now I'm going to multiply a 3-digit number by a 3-digit number. So we're going to follow the same steps. So the first step says to line the problem up. How are we going to line it up? That's right, we're going to line it up vertically. Now we're going to move on to the second step. The second step says to multiply the top number by the ones place in the bottom number. So that's going to be our 6. So I'm going to multiply 425 by 6. Just to make it clear that I was multiplying by the 6, I've decided to change the color so you would be able to see which partial product is being created by which place in the bottom number. So now I'm going to go to the third step, and the third step tells me to cross off any carried numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and cross these two off. Now I'm going to move on to the fourth step, and the fourth step tells us to drop 1 0 because we are now multiplying by the tens place. So I'm going to be multiplying by the 7. And when I multiply by the 7, I'm going to get 29,750. So step number 6 tells us to cross off any carried numbers, and now I'm going to move on to step 7. Step 7 tells us to drop 2 placeholder zeros to multiply by the 3 because it's in the hundreds place. Now, it makes sense that if I'm multiplying by the tens place and I have to drop 1 0, and there's one place just to the right of the tens place, it makes sense that if I'm multiplying by the hundreds place now, I'm going to have to drop 2 zeros to hold that place. So I'm going to drop 2 zeros here. And now I can continue to follow step 8, which says to multiply the top number by the 3 in the hundreds place in the bottom number. So I'm going to do that. 3 times 5 is 15. I'm going to carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 4 is 12. And I'm going to write that here. And now I'm ready to do my final step, which is to add my partial products. So if I add straight down, I'm going to get 0, 0, 18, carry the 1, 19, carry the 1, 5, and 1. And now I can count over 3 spaces and put in my comma, and my answer is going to be 159,800. Now let's try a couple together. So here I have 71 times 32. So I'm going to line it up vertically. And now I'm going to multiply by the 1s. So I'm going to multiply 71. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 7 is 14. And my first partial product will be 142. Now, because I'm multiplying by a 3 in the tens place, or a value of 30, I have to drop a 0. And now I'm going to multiply by the 3. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21. And now I can add my partial products. And I will get 2,272. Go ahead and pause the video while you do question number 2 on your own. Did you get an answer of 4,185? Did you line your factors up vertically? Did you remember to add your placeholder 0? If you did, good job. Let's move on. Alright, now we have 2 problems that have a 2-digit number multiplied by a 3-digit number. And if you remember correctly, it told us to put the 3-digit number on top. That's going to give us a better chance, or actually less of a chance, of making an error. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to multiply by the 6 in the ones place. And I'm going to get 810. And now because I'm multiplying by 2 in the tens place, or a value of 20, I'm going to put in my placeholder 0. And now I'm going to multiply by the 2. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 2 times 1 is 2. And now I can add my partial products, and I will get my answer of 3,510. Now pause the video while you do question number 4 on your own. Did you get the answer of 24,534? Did you remember to drop your 0 in your partial product? Did you remember to line it up with the 3-digit number on top? Good job. Let's move on to 3-digit numbers. Alright, now we have 2 3-digit numbers, so I am going to line them up. It doesn't matter which one is actually on top. Thanks to our commutative property of multiplication, it doesn't matter in which order these come in. So now, but it does matter which order I multiply from. So I'm going to start with multiplying by the ones place, and I'm going to get 325. And now, because I'm multiplying by the tens place, I'm going to have to drop my 0. And now I'm going to multiply by the 6. So 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. Carry the 1. And now 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. Now, if you remember correctly, because I'm multiplying by the hundreds place, how many zeros do I have to drop? That's right, I have to drop 2 zeros. And now I can multiply as if I'm just multiplying by a 4. So 4 times 5 is 20. And 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. And 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Now I can add my partial products, and I will get my answer of 149,825. Go ahead and pause the video while you try this last one on your own. Did you get an answer of 110,250? Now I will tell you, and you'll see my first partial product, I did not have to actually put this line of zeros in here, but it does help me to remember that this is my ones place, so that I remember to add a 0 for the tens place and 2 zeros for the hundreds place. In this video, we have learned how to multiply 3-digit numbers using an algorithm.